Hey everyone! It is another day and another Colorisma. I am Shar, and today we are going to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, losing motivation. I'm going to try something a little different. Hopefully you can hear me. I am not sure if this setup is going to work. Um, I am trying something different where I'm going to go ahead and try to do an actual draw with me and draw today. So let's see if I can get that to go and work right. All right, so hopefully you are still with me and you can hear what I'm saying. If not, I will scramble to fix that. But um, yeah, I am working on a piece here. Okay, cool. You can hear me. Um, it just wouldn't be a Colorsma without, you know, some kind of technological tomfoolery going on. But yeah, so what I'm working on today is a character sheet. I thought I would do one for one of my main characters coming up named Key. And I was wanting to work on that, so I felt like I had to actually make it so I could draw. Let's see, I think this screen is kind of messing me up, so hopefully I won't need that screen anymore. All right, so Key is a Saluki, and if you're not familiar with that breed, then it is a breed of sighthound, which is super fast. The fastest dog over long distances. So Greyhound is technically faster, but a Saluki can outrun a Greyhound. So for what that's worth, they are kind of aloof dogs that are not known for being super affectionate. They kind of mind their own business and like being around other Salukis the most. This Saluki is one of the different colors. It's a red color. But yeah, all that to say that that is what I'm working on today. But I am going to be chatting with y'all about losing motivation and what that means. And what I wanted to get into today about that is a little bit more than just some basic tips of, well, just try to go and do something you like, or step away from your art, and then that should help. Because when you're in the space of losing motivation to the point where you're seriously considering some things, those things generally are kind of not helpful. And I keep seeing those kind of things over and over. And one of the things I keep wanting to do on the show is to have like a more, I don't want to say real, but definitely a more in-depth talk about the various struggles that artists go through specifically, and kind of like the existential crises that happen as an artist. Part of what is so difficult about art is the fact that it is not easy to make a living from it. It is definitely possible. If you check out probably your favorite artists, you'll see that it is entirely possible, and that is probably the thing that is the most, I won't say infuriating, but it is probably one of the more frustrating things about the whole journey, is because you see some people are doing it, they are making it, so you know it's possible, it's not an impossible dream. However, it seems like it never happens for you. And when that is the case year after year, and for me, going on my second decade of that not being the case, of me wanting an art career, but then not being able to have one in the manner that I want, it's really frustrating. So, how do you keep going when there is no promise that you will ever make it. Um, and you want to punch anyone who says, "Oh, you'll make it after you're dead" in the face, because that's not helpful at all. Um, and how do you keep wanting to even do the thing when it feels like you're kind of all alone, or you're in just a very, very small like group of people who even know you exist, and you can't like make a living off of your friends. If you could, that would be awesome. But unless you have a very particular set of friends, um, unlikely to be able to have that happen for you. So it's one of those things that I have been dealing on and off for, like I said, a really long time. I've been trying to make a art career for myself ever since I would say 2003, when I graduated high school. Um, I went into a lot of different kinds of things. I did try to do vector art. I tried to do graphic design. I tried to do fantasy illustration. I tried to do book covers. I tried to do children's books. I did a lot of things. So it's also kind of frustrating when you keep hearing the advice. And this is not to, say anyone who offers this advice is not helpful at all or anything, because until you've been through all of the different options, then you don't really know what will or will not work for you. But it is frustrating for me to be told, well, just do this or just do that. Like it's any easier in any other field to, be able to make a name for yourself and get found. So you might as well, in my opinion, you might as well do the thing that you love the most, because you just won't like anything else as much. And if you are still trying to figure out what that is, what that thing you like the most is, then this is going to be a bit of a different kind of advice, because um, you're in a different mind space when you are still trying to discover who you are as an artist and what it is that you actually want to say and do. My perspective is coming from a place that uh, I have found that, and like I think I've had other colorism talks about trying to find that, and that is one of the big things about the show that I do want to emphasize more coming up in future episodes. But trying to find your passion, trying to find that thing that makes you super happy, and that is what you would call your passion. But I am going to speak today, at least, on I know what I want to do and I just can't get there. And it won't be marketing tips, and it won't be how to do an Instagram ad, and it won't be anything like that, because those things come and go. They change daily, it feels like. Um, it feels like it both changes daily and also is the same old story. Typically, the answer to any of that is throw money at it. Throughout the years, that's what I found. Is what it boils down to is throw money at the problem, and then that should do it. Um, and maybe you don't have the money to throw at it. Maybe, um, I mean, that's the main one, right? Is that people starting off especially don't typically have like $1 million budgets to toss at their marketing problems. Um, so my advice is going to be more tailored to like the within kind of, and the way you handle your own emotional dealings with this. And of course, that is always going to be different between person and person as well. Um, and so I can only speak to my own personal experience on that. But hopefully it resonates with you. And hopefully, if you're not where I am right now, maybe you will be in the future after working on some other things. If you're not at the point where you know exactly what it is you want to do, maybe you can come back to this episode later. Um, Hopefully, what I see a lot happen for people out there is that they're not sure what it is they want to do. They're not sure what it is they want to say. But in the process of finding that out, they actually gain some kind of success. And to me, those are the stories that I can see kind of like good and bad from. But I definitely feel like, as much as it is, they may have a bad time of it when that happens, it's also like such a good thing. Because yeah, you might be changing your style and changing what it is you do, and people may not follow that, but you have such an advantage um, when you already have a fan base, because there is going to be a certain section of that fan base that will follow you no matter what. And if that's the case for you, then you're probably not even watching this. But I don't know. I don't know who watches these or who may benefit from it. So I won't exclude anyone. Um, but I definitely feel like one of the things that is really hard is when you go through that whole process of trying to find yourself and your art and what it is you want to say and do. There is a certain aspect of it that's kind of nice. You're not exactly doing it in secret. You are trying to show everyone and tell everyone about what you're doing. But if you don't have a lot of attention on it, um, you get to do all that without a lot of negative critique or haters or any of that. So in that way, it's pretty nice to not necessarily be known until you actually figured out what it is that you want to say. The downside, though, is you probably spent a long time, a long part of the time that you've been trying to figure things out. And it is really hard, at least for me right now. It has been really difficult to separate the time that I've been trying to make something of myself from the point in time where I actually figured out what that was. And now I'm starting almost fresh because I now have like more cohesive branding. My Instagram doesn't look like a hot mess full of random posts from all over. It actually makes sense now, and when you look at it, you can kind of get a sense of what it is that I'm doing right now. And that's all very recent. In fact, I've only curated my Instagram feed like this year, so not even 2 full months. So I keep having to remind myself. This is one of the first things that I do to help keep motivated when I'm feeling pretty demotivated with everything. And the first thing is, keep in mind how long you've actually been doing what you're doing right now. And I get sort of over dramatic at times, and I'm like, I've been doing this for 17 years. And yeah, I have, but I haven't been doing this exact thing. I haven't been uh, having a cohesive branding with a cohesive property with you know putting out consistent work for 17 years. I've been doing that for 2 years, and there is a frustrating bit of I will say advice that I hear a lot from web artists, web comic artists specifically, where they're just like a little dismissive of the journey and how frustrating it is. And because it took them a really long time, then their kind of opinion is, well, you just gotta wait your turn, just like I did. Um, and I find that advice, I won't say mildly infuriating, I'll say very infuriating. Because I feel like there is a way to do it better than just waiting your turn. I know it does take time to develop an audience and to figure out what it is you exactly want to do with the stuff. And I know pretty much everything that I'm a fan of now, short of a very few things, had been around for probably about a couple of years before I finally learned about it and then was a fan myself. So that is another thing I will say is kind of a tip is look at any property that you enjoy, whether it's a TV show, a book series, a movie series, or whatever. Um, Unless you are just at the very cutting edge of every single property that you've ever liked in your whole entire life, um, you'll probably find when you check out when it started compared to when you actually became a fan of it was a couple of years. And so um, it can be difficult to be patient when you've been trying at this general thing called art for definitely more than a couple of years. But you just have to keep that in mind. You still have to keep reminding yourself because it is so hard to just like not feel the weight of all the time beforehand. Exactly. Every Christy says every overnight success is decades in the making, and that is absolutely true. Um, there's only a few people I know of that basically kind of had that like quote unquote TikTok um, literal overnight success with a video or something, that that is a thing of an in of itself. And maybe I will find one of those people and interview them and kind of get the deal on that because I know that is also very difficult. I saw what that happened to one person, and they actually wrote a message out to everyone and being just explaining how overwhelming it is and how suddenly their life is very very different online. And um and they kind of talked about that, and I find that very interesting. I can't relate but I find it very interesting, and I do imagine it would be very difficult and very overwhelming, especially if not all of the even if all the feedback was very positive, it would still be very overwhelming. So that said, if that hasn't happened to you and you're still waiting, or it's growing so slowly as if to feel that nothing is happening at all, I feel bad complaining a lot of the times because I complain to the people who have supported me the longest, and they probably feel like, but I've known about you this whole time. I've helped you, and it's like I know. And I don't want to be dismissive of the people that have been there the longest, because those are like the real OGs, right? Like those are the people that will be there forever, and I love that about them. Um, it's hard to talk about something in general without to someone who it's actually affecting personally, and them not like take offense to it. So that's why it's sometimes also kind of hard to deal with this because you kind of feel like you have no one to talk to about it because um, unless they are also an artist and also an artist that is trying to get some kind of notoriety in their art. There are a lot of artists that just draw for fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. So if you have some like artist friends, but they're kind of hobbyists, it also might be kind of hard to find someone to talk to about this because it's like they don't want the same thing you want. They don't really want that for themselves. So you really kind of feel alone, and that's also another super demotivating thing is to just feel like you have like no one. And I've definitely experienced that this past year, with everything going on and everybody just kind of living their own personal hell. It's kind of hard to, um, for me anyway, to then definitely tack onto that by taking my problems and adding it to theirs. And people say like it's not a problem, but it is a bit of like an extra thing, and you have to make sure that the person you're talking to can actually tolerate the fact that you're, talking about some big heavy stuff with them, um, because it can be a lot, and I think it's important to be considerate. But that said, um, I definitely feel like another thing you can do is to make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. When when I say I'm losing motivation, it's usually a sense of overwhelm, and typically what happens for me, and just one of those short, like, oh, just do this and you'll feel better, type of tips. I typically have run out of plans. That's why I end up feeling that way, is because I've exhausted all the plans I've come up with, and I don't have any more. So, quick tip, if I come to you with this problem, just be like, hey, what's the plan? And I'll probably say, I don't know. And I'm actually probably asking for help in that regard, secretly, because I don't actually want to bother anyone with, with like, please help me make my business not suck. Um, but yeah, I am willing to come up with plans and then act on them. But typically, when I'm starting to really feel super not unmotivated, but just demotivated, then the problem is very often that I don't have a plan. And that could be something as simple as that for you as well. Um, it may not be. It may just be, there's another level beyond that as well, where you have a plan, you're acting on the plan, you've been doing the plan, and it just feels like no one else is playing their part. Like, you're doing all the things you can do, whether it's all that you can do physically or all that you can think to do, and just none of it is working. And that's just going to happen, as crappy as it is to say that. Um, and when you get into that mind space and you really feel like giving up, and if you're like me, there's no plan B. There's no like, oh, I'll just do this. And when it doesn't work out, then I'll do something else. There is nothing else. There is a day job, but that is not a like thing that I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, if I end up having to do it for the rest of my life, well, so be it. But as far as like what brings me joy, um, it's this. It's what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to strive and try and make everything do everything in my power to make this the thing. Um, and when that feels like that's not possible, when you feel that strongly like this is your calling and this is the thing, and this is the thing you want to do the most in the whole entire world, and then you feel demoted from even doing that, it is very, very overwhelming, I'll say. I haven't had too long of a period, I'll say, for myself personally. It probably sounds like I have depression when I talk about this, but I can literally talk myself out of it, which is how I know I do not have depression, because you can't talk yourself better. You can't do that, like, well, just think happy thoughts and feel better. But I actually can. So that's how I know it's not real depression, like the way depression works. Um, but so I was gonna say, this overwhelming, like super bad feeling typically lasts like a day. Um, And of course, you know about it because I feel so bad that I have to talk about it. So then you hear about it. And sometimes I feel this way more often than not. So if that's the only time you kind of really hear about anything I have to say is when I'm super sad about stuff, I think people get that impression, um, that I'm worse off than I am. Because, like, all the time you're not hearing about me, I'm fine. Like, when I'm not complaining or not saying anything, then I'm absolutely fine. Um, But yeah, so I think it is also important to assess your like mental well-being and know like, am I depressed? Is this like something beyond what I can control in the sense of like how I'm feeling about this? Like even if everything was going well, would I still feel that like this, or is this because of like this very specific situation that I feel this way? For me, it's always been very situationally based. So that's also how, even though I think there is a form of depression called situational depression, I don't feel like it's the same thing. Maybe it is. Um, but I feel like that's something that still lasts more than a day or two, or maybe up to a week at the most. Um, but yeah, so check into yourself. Make sure that if it is more serious than just feeling bad and just having bad feelings and feeling like maybe I should do something else, even though I don't know what that something else would be, um, just keep an eye on yourself in that way. Like know how you are and if this is something that is going to pass with a good nap or overnight rest. Uh, I think that's really important to know yourself well enough to be able to assess that for yourself because it can be a super overwhelming and like you do hit like a wall, like an existential crisis wall, and it can be a lot. So when you are feeling that way, just make sure that it is a temporary thing. Like check in with yourself a little bit even while you're feeling all this, and just go like, I do need to come up with a plan. Like that's what I do. Is like I'm just like I ask myself, am I really, really doing absolutely everything that I can? And the answer is pretty much always no. I'm not doing absolutely everything I can. And that actually does make me feel a little bit better because I know I could be doing more, and that seems maybe a little demotivating in of itself. But um, when it's under when it's my fault, I feel actually better. I feel like actually more in control. When people, I've also had it, because I've been dealing with this well before in 2008 and when the world was falling apart that way and economically. And I've had people say, well, it's just really bad economics while I'm sitting there still scrolling on my feed and seeing people thrive and make livings out of their art and everything. Um, and I'm like, well, it's not that for them. So I know it's possible. And I just don't find it super helpful to just blame things well outside of my control. Sometimes that is helpful, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, I don't find it all that particularly helpful. So that's another tip too, is to see what you can do, even though that does kind of delve into the more of the like, just do this and then it'll be better kind of tips. I do find that action is better than inaction because when you do feel bad, you do have a tendency to um, feel like nothing's going good and it's all messed up and I can't do anything and I've been trying but it's not working. So why bother even trying anymore? Um, that's why I was so excited earlier this month when I started working on the stickers because this that kind of provided like this extra slightly external motivation um, that really helped me realize like okay, like this is a thing that I can do and promote and show people and share with people and actually say like, hey, go do and buy this thing. Because I think it's also hard with now I'm talking specifically about the webcomic, but it's hard to monetize a free web comic. It's hard to I'm sure it's hard to monetize a not free web comic as well, but it's really hard to have that leap from um, someone who is reading something for free, and you're always going to provide it for free. So it's not like um, that's going to change, but it's one of those things where it's hard to be, well, thinking at it logically. It's easy to feel sad about it, but thinking at it out of it logically, uh, you're providing something for free, and you're sad about the fact that you're not making a living from it. Okay. Just so we get that straight, just so we're thinking about that correctly here. With a lot of other art careers or art paths, you're constantly producing work. You are producing either an original piece or a digital piece, and then you are selling that as a print, or because it's like has mass appeal by just being like a generic thing, or you're doing like say pet portraits or pictures of people's characters, so they're like individually invested in the piece. So those are all like direct ways to make money. And when you're doing something that has a little bit less direct way of making money, such as pretty much just support through Patreon, then it also is good to step back and just be like, okay, I'm sad about this, but also like at the same time, I have to think of it a little bit more logically than I have been. And without actual products to sell, how are people expected to be able to support me? Like, you got to think of it like less emotionally and more like, okay, I'm sad about not making a living, I'm being an artist, but I'm not doing anything to allow anyone to help me make a living. So let's solve that. Um, I'm very solution based and problem solving based, as you can probably hear from talking to me and listening. Um, so that does honestly help me. It helps me to feel okay. What's going on? Hate it when Clip Studio does that. I press some key and it turns to this like, I don't know if you can see, but this like transparent thing, and I don't know how that's helpful or what that does, but it's very annoying when you do it on accident. But anyway, yeah, you got to make sure that things actually make sense with your business plan. I know we're artists and we're not business people, but if you want money and then you have no way to people, like only one way or very few ways for people to hand you money, and you need money, then that's a business problem that you can probably solve a little bit and work on. um, and I know that's made me feel better. I still have residue, what I call the residue from like all of the years that I'm frustrated from before. But at the same time, um, I also kind of realize like I got to step back and stop and um, try as hard as I can to ignore the fact that, my post got 2 likes, even though I was like really excited about posting about it. And it doesn't make sense because it's the same kind of post as the one that got 50 likes last week, but whatever. Um, and just realize like, okay, all right, it's only been a week. My shop has only been open for a week. I really need to like keep that into perspective and realize like that's not a long time. And people are still finding out about it. And given the fact that um, these posts are not performing super good, then it's even more surprising that I've gotten any sales at all, because that means, and of course they're from like the super true fans, which, like, love y'all forever. But um, it's not surprising. It's also it's you just have to pull logic into it. Okay, so like social media is either suppressing my posts or just making it so I can't get my stuff out there without paying money. So I'm not doing as well as I'd like. Well, that it kind of makes sense, right? Like in that way, maybe realizing that it's a little outside your control can make you feel a little bit better. It doesn't make me feel a lot better, but it makes me feel a smidge better knowing that social media is kind of doing things to actively suppress progress. And like I said, it doesn't make me feel a lot better. It's not like, phew, that's the answer. Oh boy, great. I'm so happy about that. But at the same time, it does kind of provide some kind of answer as to like, why is this not working out better than it is? It's because the social media platforms I'm advertising on want money, and I'm not giving them money, so they're not supporting me because I'm not supporting them. Um, it makes sense. It doesn't make me happy, but it makes sense. Um, the other thing you can try in that, and I'm also talking to myself with all of this, talking through some of these issues. Um, the other thing you can, kind of pay attention to and understand, um, the social medias that are asking for money um, are going to suppress your posts asking for money because they want you to pay them in order to actually get the word out. So that's going to be Facebook and Instagram. Those are ones that you can pay to get ads and stuff out there. So that said, if your posts aren't doing super great on there, it might be worth your while to check out a different social media that doesn't really ask for money, like TikTok or I don't think it's easy to do an ad program on YouTube, so maybe that's another one. But the harder it is for you to give a platform money, the more the thing that matters on those platforms is sheer entertainment. And what I'm finding, because I do a lot of observation and I'm just constantly tracking what I can perceive to be trends and just trying to figure it out, right? Like I've been paying attention for since social media started, basically. Um, well before then even. Um, so what I've been noticing is that the social medias that don't ask for money really rely on you being super entertaining, and the art videos on TikTok that I see do really well are just that. Like they are entertaining, and there's like a subsect of videos that kind of do the like the pull on the heartstrings kind of thing. I attempted one of those yesterday. It didn't got 5 likes, so that's not the way for me to go. Um, but the other way is to try to be more entertaining. Like, even though I don't really feel like it, I'll have to, take the time, feel how I'm feeling. And then when I am feeling a little better, probably really hammer down some entertaining things for people to watch and experience that involve my work, and sharing it with them and checking out some of the videos that have done really well, and potentially copying some of the things that they not their product or their exact like style or anything, but if they do a bunch of really fast clips of different work in progress shots until they show the final, then that's when I'll do that. Um, so just paying attention to what does well can really help you to feel a little bit better, because um, that can um, give you a clue on how to move forward. Um, but I do feel like it is important to not necessarily like fester in the the emotions of feeling discouraged and for me, my main thing is like nobody cares. Like that's the feeling that keeps perking up for me is like, I feel like no one cares. Um, so when you're in it and you're feeling those feelings, it's not a matter of like, oh, let's try to move past those as soon as possible and not actually, process or digest those at all. Definitely not saying that because that's just going to lead to like an explosion of feeling later. Probably not in a good way, probably not in a way that is going to work out too well for you because it'll probably be in an opportune time. Probably when you're upset about something else, and then all of this is going to come flooding back. So it's very important, in my opinion, to feel the feels, as I say, and actually process these emotions that you're feeling and um, you know, even if no one else will sit there and say it with you, just say shit sucks. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it. And just scream like obscenities that everyone is not helping you or whatever in the privacy of your home away from everyone. Just, get it out. And not, don't try to, for me, it's the big thing for me is constantly being aware. And I'm not saying this to be complaining. I like being aware of people's feelings and, um, you know, keeping track of them and not hurting people's feelings on purpose or anything. But I do that to the detriment of myself a lot. So it's definitely one of those things that I need to stop and just be like, look, this is annoying. And stop trying to constantly think of the people who are helping me and realize like they're not the problem. They are doing their part. I'm not mad at them, and just let myself feel um, frustrated at it not working out as either as fast or it's taking as long as it has or anything else. All right. I see some comments here. I wanted to get to those. Ah, yeah, that is a very good point, Christy. And I was actually thinking about that today. Um, Christy says, in addition to like suppression, like the social media's actively suppressing your work, there's the marketing rule of 7, where even if someone sees your stuff once, they still need to see you at least 7 more times before they consider a purchase. So that is insanely true. I actually was thinking about that just today because I opened up every Tuesday, I open up Canva, and I should probably do it not on Tuesday, probably beforehand. But I opened up the program called Canva, and on that program, I do all of my marketing, artwork, and imagery, and all the stuff I post to like social media. I do on this app called Canva, and I used Canva probably for like a solid year before I paid for it, and I only just started paying for it like in January, like last month. Um, so I had been using it for a very long time before I decided, actually, I actually would like to use all these pro features, and there's a bunch of stock art and stuff that I'm tired of only being able to use the free stuff because the better ones are obviously the pro ones. And I just want to, use those already and kind of level up the stuff I'm producing and submitting out there online because I hope is that it genuinely helps, and even if I do have to pay for ads or whatever to get out there, um, hopefully the professionalism that this program provides will help with that. uh, but I opened it up today and I was like, man, I sure did wait a long time before I actually started paying for it. And then I also felt like that twinge of like, oh, should I be paying for it? And then I was like, immediately, yeah, no, I think I'm getting good value out of this. And that's not some kind of plug for Canva, though. Canva, if you want to, then I will do the thing. Anyway, but it just goes to show like you need to be in someone's sphere of influence and helping them and making them feel, you know, like a certain kind of way, generally good, um, for a long time before they may consider actually supporting you back. Um, and that sounds kind of harsh, but it's kind of how humanity and just, you know, living creatures work. Like, um, we sort of work on a tit for tat, you help me, I help you kind of situation. It's if you look at all creatures we've ever just domesticated, they only became domesticated because we helped them out. We fed them and we gave them a place to sleep when it was cold, and we gave them help, even though they don't always appreciate it, when they're sick, and made it so they lived longer, and um, all these things. Even if they don't even know the benefit that we're providing for them, they know that, hey, you know, life is easier with these humans than it is out there in the wild when I have to go do everything myself. Um, so it's just kind of how everything works, is understanding that your product, or, you know, art or whatever, um, sometimes, yes, it strikes a chord with someone and they just immediately fall in love, and you know, love on in first sight or whatever, with in regards to art, and they will plunk down cash. But generally, that, I will say, probably comes less. How do I word this in such a way that makes sense? Um, that is like a pre-defined need from that person. Like, they needed a gift, and then they saw your product, art, whatever, met that need perfectly, right? So it's like a meshing of those two concepts together, and that's when that generally happens. Sometimes, even if they didn't have a need, someone will see someone's artwork and just be like, "Oh my god, this, yes, I must have it." Um, I've felt that way before with things, and I have originals for that exact reason. But that isn't super common, I'll say, especially not super common when it comes to like your non art collecting, um, everyday kind of collector. There are like people who deem themselves art collectors, and that's kind of their whole thing, is to you know, be on the lookout for these different artists or whatnot. Um, but I will say, probably, unless you're in the fine art market, those aren't your typical customers. Um, so yeah, that's another thing to definitely be aware of, is the fact that the reason why, and there is some, you know, truth to it, as frustrating as it is, and I'm complaining about earlier about the advice of, you know, you just got to wait a couple of years, or 5 or 10 years or whatever, for your web comic to do well. um yeah, because it just takes that long to saturate the market, unless, like I said, you have the budget to really actually uh do that saturation kind of artificially. And nothing wrong with that. But it does take, I would say, probably a considerable amount of funds to do the work that word of mouth does. And there's, you know, there's something to be said for going viral and people, a lot of people suddenly seeing your stuff. But again, that goes back to that point I said of then you have to be super entertaining. And I think I've avoided that in the past because I don't want to I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to spend a lot of time um, thinking of like all the skits and different things like that. Maybe I should take more time. Maybe I should get over that. Maybe that's a hang up of mine that I need to get over. But it just feels like a lot of work. So extra work, I should say. Um, and I've definitely done a number of them in the past, with no success. So there is also that kind of like, well, didn't work before, so why should it work now? Um, so it's just definitely can be really difficult because uh, when you keep doing things, even when it's you're spending a lot of effort and time and energy into creating, and then you're just not getting the results. There's no doubt that is frustrating. That is beyond frustrating. Um, and especially if you feel like you have like very few people who can understand or um, feel the same way. So then you don't even feel like you have like a lot of people you can talk to on these topics. It can be really extra like disheartening and overwhelming. Um, so yeah, it's definitely an uphill battle. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I kind of missed um, in talking about this. I did try to steer away from like the super like campy, well, just step away, but also those can be helpful. So I won't just completely say that they're not helpful because that can be the case that you're just too in it and stepping away and having a break and getting some perspective, living some life that isn't this, though that is also hard during a pandemic. Um, but do try to explore other hobbies, do have other hobbies. And again, also difficult if you're in a pandemic and if you're like me and your other hobbies involve like going out and being around other people. Like I used to do horseback riding lessons once a week, and I haven't done that in 2 years. So, and I was going to start last year, but then March happened. Um, so it's definitely one of those things. It just do what you can with what you have. That's kind of a big thing for me. Um, Even if you can't do everything, just spend the day watching Netflix and eating good food. You know, like go buy yourself a nice dinner um, and do that instead of worrying about any of this crap. Because like I said, the overwhelm is real, the frustration is super real, and sometimes you do need a break from it. I find that breaks like that don't necessarily help unless I have a plan first. If I'm like, okay, in the morning I'll work up like an advertisement and I'll start working on it. But for now, all I feel like doing is just like playing more chess. then then just know yourself and know what it is that is beneficial to you in those kind of situations. Um, and if you don't know yourself very well and you're not sure what would be beneficial, then try it out. Like you don't have to try it out forever. You can just try it out for like a few minutes or so. And if you're like, nah, this sucks, I'm just not feeling any better, um, then definitely try something else. Like, but at the end of the day, one thing that I feel is very helpful um, in general in a lot of things, in a lot of ways. Some even more deep and impactful that I'm going to say here, but um, I find a lot of um, what's the word? Comfort in knowing that I've done something before. So that means I can do it again. Um, and I've been not successful before in art, and still ended up creating anyway. Um, so I could do that again. It is possible. It is within the realm of possibility for that to be the case again. And even though that doesn't provide me like with a lot of like, oh boy, now do I sure feel better after hearing that. Um, it does provide me with like some innate peace, not a lot, but some, to know that I have done something, I've been in this situation before, and I still have gotten through it. And it's very likely that that same thing will happen again. And I will say, on the other side of this feeling, on the other side of this frustration and annoyance at, things not going right and feeling super demotivated from pursuing, your dreams, because I think giving up on your dreams is not a we kind of joke about it and stuff in society and whatnot a lot, but I think that's like a really impactful thing that people should take more seriously, because it can lead to a huge amount of unhappiness. And the other thing that kind of makes me feel better is knowing that now that I found the thing that I want to do more than anything else. Um, it's not that I want to be okay with creating in a vacuum, because when you tell stories, the whole point of telling stories is for people to listen. And it does feel there is a certain pointlessness to when you feel like no one's listening. And I'm saying that very generally, because I know there are people listening, but when you can't make it like your full life's purpose, then it feels like there's not enough. um, but I will say, having found that thing, whatever it is, your passion, and knowing that even when it's hard, even when no one's listening, even when it feels like you're all alone in it, you still want to do it. um, Maybe not in the worst moments, right? Like maybe not when you're really, really not feeling it, when you're really, really not discouraged, but all the other times, even when you are feeling it and all the other things are still true, like you're still only, at a certain amount of followers, and you're still only uh, at a certain amount of being well known. Um, Despite all that, you still want to do this thing. Um, that that matters. That means something, and I would rather be kind of unhappy but fulfilled doing this, because and keep trying to do this forever in the way that I'm trying to do it, and continue, than to be super unfulfilled, super unhappy, and completely like just distraught from a lack of purpose or drive to do anything, but maybe marginally more financially successful. That sounds miserable to me. More miserable than all of the rest of this put together. And in that, I don't exactly, like I said, I don't exactly find a lot of peace, but I do find um, doing this to be more fulfilling than any other thing I've ever done before. So, that said, I do hope that helped someone out there. If no one else tells you, and if no one else says this, um, I understand. I relate. I've been dealing with this for 17 years. Um, it's a lot. It feels overwhelming. The constant trying of different things, the constant, you know, having like a core group of 20 people who you super appreciate, but you can't like you can't be like, okay, I can quit my job now, 20 people support you, like you can't do that, so it's still so frustrating. um and then you feel guilty for feeling frustrated because those people are helping you, so you're like, ugh. So I get all of that. And if you want a community to vent to, because maybe you can relate and but no one else can, um, then check out the Colorisma Discord. I've been trying to promote that a little bit more because I've found in the time that I've been promoting it more that people have popped in, and we're having like a really great little group of people in there. And um, my hope is that people feel really encouraged, even if they're feeling discouraged. They're encouraged by the fact that people in there care, they're listening, um, they want to hear from you, and I'm hoping that that community can continue to grow and still be super awesome, um, and you know actually listen to what and what you're saying. So if that sounds good to you, then check out the description because I have a link there in the description for you to be able to join. That said, I appreciate you all for watching and sticking with me for this past hour. I, if you have any ideas for future episodes, I've just been kind of going um, based on what's been happening lately. But I do take suggestions, and if you're interested in having me talk with someone, maybe an artist you know or yourself, then you can always ping me as well on, and I have all the information below on that. I appreciate y'all watching. If you do want to take the next step and help support Colorisma financially, then you can go do that over on patreon.com/Colorisma. I super appreciate y'all being here, and I will talk to you next week. Bye.